All right, so you're focused on making sure that that corporate money that is overseas comes back here to encourage businesses to do that. We've had real specifics in terms of a tax plan from a number of your colleagues that will be on stage tomorrow night. Not as much from you. Why is that? Do you have an overall plan that you want to share away from just getting that money from corporations? Yep.
Absolutely. I'm in favor of a flat tax. Because of proportionality. Everybody should be hit exactly the same. In order to, remain revenue neutral, we would have to make that rate at about 15% and eliminate all deductions and all the loopholes. That would get us about $2.7 trillion, which is still short of the $3.5 trillion that we need. But we haven't talked about every aspect of capital investments. Capital gains, which would also be at 15%. We haven't talked about foreign income, which is not coming back now, but would continue to come back at a 15% rate, not at a 35 to 40% rate. I think that would make up pretty much all of the difference. But in addition to that, we have 4.1 million federal employees. We don't need 4.1 million federal employees, and thousands of them retire each year. So by the process of attrition, allow that number to come down over the course of a few years. That will make a big difference. We have 645 federal agencies and sub-agencies, every single one of which has fat in it. Trim that by 2 or 3%. You got a lot of savings there. And, applying things like Lean Six Sigma to each one of those agencies so that we begin to save instead of wasting the taxpayers' money.
Let me ask you about the regulatory environment. You have spoken about an onerous situation and all of these new regulations as keeping business from hiring. Which specific regulations would you change and how? What industries do you think you will affect if, in fact, you change these regulations?
Well, I would look at the cost-to-benefit ratios of all of the regulations. And obviously, that has to work in the benefit of society, recognizing that every single federal regulation costs money, and that money gets passed on to the consumers, goods and services. And that doesn't hurt a rich person, but when a poor person walks in that store and that bar of soap has gone up 10 cents, they notice it. And when a middle class comes up to that cash register with a whole carton full of different things that are gone up 5, 10, or 15 cents, it has an impact. Those are the kinds of things that are putting a real damper on the American dream, on the ability to do what families want to do.
Right. Dr. Carson, who is advising you on economic issues?
I have a number of advisors, but the chief one is Tom Restici. He's a professor of economics at George Mason.
I asked the question because people know how successful you've been as a neurosurgeon. Obviously, you bring a lot to the table in terms of experience there. But what does that mean for your experience in running the largest economy in the world, dealing with adversaries all over the world? Make the case that you're the one to take the job, given your experience is not necessarily in step with the traditional person that you would see running America.
Well, first of all, I would say everybody has different experiences. And it's really been the political class that has managed to convince people that they're the only ones who can solve our problems, when in fact our system was designed for the citizen statesman, not for the career politician. Having said that, there's plenty of political experience in an academic medical center. Particularly when you're appointed the director of pediatric neurosurgery at age 33, and pediatric neurosurgery is not on the map nationally. And you do what is necessary so that by 2008 it's ranked #1 in the United States. That requires a lot of ability to bring people together and to operate in a political atmosphere. Also, learning a lot about national and international business by sitting on major corporate boards and starting a national scholars program and reading program that has won major national awards. These are not things that that most people do, and I would dare say that no one else who's running has done those kinds of things. So the real question is, you know, what makes you capable of bringing together a team, a complex team, and accomplishing things? Those are things that I've done. I'm not sure who else has done that, to be honest with you. But the real issue is, can you solve problems? Because right now we have problems that threaten to destroy us and destroy the future for our children. And I don't believe that there's any one person who has all the answers, but I think we have some incredibly talented people, and knowing how to utilize them in a synergistic fashion will solve a lot of problems for us.
So how do you approach putting a cabinet together then? I mean, where will you look in terms of getting the right people in the right jobs?
Well, I'll be talking to a lot of the people that I know and respect. Many of them are older, quite frankly, and probably wouldn't be able to do it now themselves, but have had many, many years of perspective and have become familiar with a lot of people around the country. And, you know, I would do it the same way I do everything. You know, when I'm studying a complex surgical case or working on something that people have not been successful at doing before, I take into consideration a lot of accounts. I also look at, you know, what has worked and what has failed in the past.
Yep. Dr. Carson, it's good to have you on the program this morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
We'll see you in Milwaukee tomorrow night, Dr. Ben Carson.